Hello,
Hi, you're
hello,
back. You're
Jade,
back.
Karen, agus Jade a handina. Initial in my project atá Karen Greene reached agus mudge a canch fleeing cúrsaí reatha sna paper sna nuachtain and you. Okay, hello everybody. We have Karen, our secretary, again this evening. We're going to have another chat following on from last week, and this week we're going to be talking about some of the events going on in the papers. I've got the Irish News from Belfast. Karen's got, what do you got there, Karen?
The Evening Herald and the Irish Times, and
Okay,
also the Drogheda Life as well.
very good.
All right.
Okay, so we've got a few things to talk about. It's been another week in COVID heaven, you know. So we'll just start off. Obviously, stuff's going on ahead with the COVID-19 stuff. Just a picture. Something that just jumped out at me is Irish News. As I was saying last week, there's the narrative about the Northern Nationalists are all very pro-EU. There was an article here about refusal to allow EU office in North is an act of bad faith. So Alison Morris is the journalist that's mentioned this, but there's something about a letter from all the pro-nationalist, pro-EU parties are crying foul that they're going to close the EU office in Belfast. I mean, we've pulled out of the EU.
Yeah, so now you don't have one.
I know. So why are they crying about this? You know, this is typical of the they just can't let go. They're clinging on to it. You know, pro to me.
Any all EU flags either. If there's any EU flags flying around public buildings, they should be taken down as well. They have been taken down yet? I don't know. Or
good question. They should be. There's not as many, but they should be. But no, I mean it's not. We're not having special status for Northern Ireland. Like we're out. You know what you guys are talking about. You know,
aren't you lucky?
What?
Aren't you lucky?
I know. This is what you get. This is what you constantly get. So that gives you just an idea of how that goes on and on. Here's another one. Here's a funny one in the Irish News. You know about they used to say about AIDS being the gay virus or the gay plague and stuff. It was kicked back against the gay community. There's a DUP councillor in Belfast here, the good old DUP. You know that? You know who they are?
Yes, Arlene Foster.
Arlene, yeah. She has one of their councillors now. It's not sanctioned by the DUP itself, but one of their councillors suggested the virus was God's judgment.
Back to the 1980s.
Yeah. I mean, he's apologised for that, but I'll just read out a wee bit of what. God's judgment for abortion reforms and legalising same-sex marriage. But he's not going to apologise for that. So the good old DUP, they always come up with something like that, you know?
Yeah. But viruses happen regardless of, you know, if Spanish flu, what was that related to? You know what I mean? Any pandemic can happen at any stage, regardless of what's going on in the world. So I wouldn't really be reading too much into it. But back to thinking is go back to 1980.
Although they're a very pro-life party.
Sorry?
The only pro-life party, really, apart from Ainty, the UP are a very pro-life party. And there's one or two people on the even old ex-GAA players, women who have had kids, are considering voting for them till Ainty came along. So some people feel very strongly have considered voting for them. Because of their pro-life stance.
Right, okay.
Sorry, go on ahead. You're saying?
No, I'm just saying that kind of thinking in the 1980s is an old-fashioned way of dealing with a naturally occurring pandemic that could happen anytime. You know, like to think that AIDS was a gay disease or a punishment for any kind of, how would you say, what, like, you know, being gay or whatever. We can't start thinking, come back to that now because of COVID. COVID could happen next year. And what are they going to blame it on? So, I mean, they need to apologise because it's nothing to do with people's behaviour. You know,
he hasn't apologised for his Christian faith, but one of the party actually said they liked the comments. So
he likes the comments.
The comment got a like by one of but they have apologised. So
right.
Only in Northern Ireland that would happen, but. Right, what else have we got here? Testing centres happening. You seem to be getting more testing done down there than up here.
Well, it's still very slow. I mean, I had a couple of colleagues at work who, that took about nearly 2 weeks, only coming back now this week. So, I mean, it took a long time between getting tested and then getting the results. I mean, they're still sending them to Germany. They're sending them to Germany now at this point. But why would you want to send to another country? We should be able to do it ourselves. And then sometimes the quality of the testing is not great either. So they could be testing for a corona that's not even related to the one the world is suffering from. It's, there's different types of corona strains, and we all carry something. Yeah. We even carry MRSA in our throats, in our skin, in our nasal area. So you could be a carrier, we're actually suffering from it. So the testing isn't as done as quickly as we'd like, and then there's test centres that are lying empty all over Dublin, and that's gone on now quite a while. And you've all this hotel down in City West, which is over in the west side of Dublin, and that's lying empty as well, waiting for an upsurge of people who will be tested, treated in hospital, then brought to this hotel that's lying empty, ready for a set down, kind of like a recovery area. But that's not happening either.
What about the idea of if they test people and find out that they're positive for it, that they can start taking part in society again?
Oh, you mean, but would they have to wait until they're finished? They're positive and they're...
Yeah, antibodies that they've show that they've actually had it and they have antibodies in the system.
So they're immune to it now, is it?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah. Well, I don't know. How do you stop them from infecting somebody who hasn't got it? So me and you and...
But if they have got it, they will not get it again, in theory.
Yeah.
And then they won't be able to give it to anybody else either.
So that's fine. As long as they have assurances that they won't, because they can go about their business as usual, go back to work or...
That's what they're talking about. Give it some sort of an armband out to those that have it, have had it.
Is that what they're saying in the paper, is it?
No, well, I'm just saying that's generally I've heard that mentioned.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah. The Taoiseach yesterday I know we've had a new Labour leader, but when we talked about that earlier, some of those comments. Yeah. He's saying that he's seek third-party support to form government. He hasn't said Labour. He's mentioned Fianna Fáil and maybe Greens and Social Democrats. Or Labour, he has said, yeah. But just to touch on that as well, I met up with one of the guys in Belfast, one of the Irish Freedom Party guys yesterday, and there seems to be, he's agreeing that the chances of another election sooner rather than later have increased. Something that we have talked about as well. Chances have increased that there may be another quick election. So we need to be ready, Karen, to get back out in the streets.
Yeah, but that means they have to take off the restrictions.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I was thinking about it. But in a way, it kind of puts us on a situation we were in January. If they do that, there's going to be another 3-week time frame.
No, the thing would have to be lifted. But if let's all be well, say it's lifted, and it's obviously it will have to be lifted. We can't do that. But all being well, and there is relaxation in it, we could be looking at another election this year. There are people that are saying that that's possible.
I mean, is he talking about like in the next few months or the next 6 months?
Well, if things are lifted, possibly you could be talking about one sooner rather than later, i.e., not in 4 or 5 years' time, quicker than that.
In the year.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, well, it gave us time to kind of get established as well. Because I wouldn't want it too soon because we're kind of, it's kind of too early because we've been stopped in our tracks in the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
We can't even do the basics.
Yeah.
So
not too early, but it would give us a chance to limit the damage that's been done by all the globalism.
Yeah.
We got a message out. Wouldn't it?
It certainly would, because I think, I mean, you have printed off a leaflet, and that's fine, but also maybe another leaflet saying, even emphasizing the border issue regarding COVID and how it's actually enhanced the border, like the open borders, enhanced the spread of the disease, because our government has,
It's putting us in a very good position because we can talk about that. We're the only party talking about borders. And by not closing down the borders, we could have contained it. And that brings me on to the letter that I got published in this paper, talking about that. There's a wee Irish language article in there as well for you.
You're determined.
There you are, look. I'm told us the information. You see that? Right.
Thank you.
There's one in every week, right? Just the letter that was published, and it was widely circulated on the party's Facebook and stuff. And it was in the Irish News as well as the Belfast Telegraph, but the Irish News don't put the party name on it; they just put your own name. So, just talking about if the government had moved to immediately close the borders, we could have contained it. And then I'm talking about the fishermen coming in, not being exempt from restrictions compared to how we are exempt or not exempt. So that doesn't seem right at all. So we can talk about that when we get back out.
Exactly. Yeah, and go back out and see the fishermen as well, because I'm sure.
Yeah. And that was something.
Be happy.
That was something that they talked about. And just another bit, something that I was wanting to just mention. I mean, it's totally COVID, but
it's very hard to get away from it.
Sorry?
I was saying it's very hard to get away from it, even on the papers.
Someone maybe to ask you about the seanad elections were on this week. How does that pan out? I say Sinn Féin.
That's a very good question. I thought we'd have to have a government, a real Taoiseach appointed, and for him to go and appoint the senators. And it didn't happen that way. Yeah. They had all these voting. Who voted for these people?
I don't know. See, I was asking. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Alicia McCallion, who got dumped out of Foyle from Sinn Féin, she's now odds on to get a seat. And your man that stood again, he stood in Louth, Nagahan, Fine Gael.
Right.
He's getting a seat, so it's almost like a retirement club for failed politics.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and they needed
a bit like that, but I don't know how people get nominated. I'm not sure. Why could we not have had somebody nominated? You know.
Well, I'm not sure how it works. I know I asked Conor about this before, but I know they need it because I know they need it quickly because they want to push these laws through. And before I came on here tonight, the sister that has been very involved in the free speech rallies, Tracy O'Mahony, has put a new video up about the laws of movement. Now, I haven't watched it yet, so I can't really comment. And it's spreading quite widely among the pages I'm looking at. But she was asked to do a breakdown of what it actually means. So I can't really say because I haven't watched all of it yet. But certainly a worry. But I mean, they need a Senate to pass these laws, these emergency laws. But then I seen something earlier where the president of the Garda union for the sergeants and inspectors was saying even though they have the right to ask you where you're going, they haven't got the right to tell you to go home. So if you're out walking, with your dog or, going home from the shop, whatever, they can ask you where you are. I've already been through it already yesterday in Dublin. They're quite out there, quite a lot, quite visible, and they're out in Drogheda during the week. So at the moment, it's kind of like they're kind of stuck in that middle of legal limbo land of being able to ask you that, and then no real laws enforcing you to go home. But yes, they are starting checkpoints, and they're asking people where they are. In Dublin, I've seen that already a few times this week, and in Collins Street in Dublin as well.
I saw something in the news today about a hotel in central Dublin is going to be another refugee centre.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, it was.
And what hotel is that?
Somebody had it up on the Facebook. City Centre Hotel is going to be a direct provision centre, sold off.
It's all about money. It's nothing to do with looking after them. It's all about money.
Yeah. And as we mentioned in the round table the other night, a lot of it is, some of them are ideologically driven by it as well, though. Some of the politicians that are behind it.
How do you mean?
Well, certainly, the likes of some of the Fine Gael leadership, they're also committed to the EU's ideals. So they are ideologically taken with all of this. Aside of just the money, this is part of what they want to see happening. Their interests, their loyalties are not with the Irish people.
Absolutely not. And I'm kind of. Sorry?
This is all part of it.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed that Tullamore didn't stand up for itself more, that they didn't come out in numbers. Just listen to John the other night at your roundtable discussion, like listening to him, that they've kind of taken on the chin that they accepted too readily without knowing the facts.
Yeah.
So that's what bothers me about it. I think people think it's about caring for people, but it isn't really. It's about money and numbers and getting people into these hotels. They're going from.
If it was about caring for people, there's other people that could bring in from the world as well, but they always seem to be, refugees from certain parts of the world, like the third world and the Islamic world. It always seems to be that, just making that factual point. It's not about taking in maybe refugees, white South Africans, for instance, or Ukrainian ones that could have been brought in. It's always the same.
Yes.
So that makes you think, well, hang on a minute. It's not about helping people. It's not about altruism, really. I'm trying to find out where that hotel was. It was in one of the.
I haven't heard that now.
Yeah, it was a city centre. I'll get it again. But just on that, the whole thing about the virus and the free movement. I mean, with all this talk about space and social distancing and things, maybe some good will come out of it in the long run, and that in workplaces people will be given more space around themselves and have better space in the workplace. Yeah.
Well, that would be very difficult in our office.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
or even things. I remember I mentioned the chess tournament that I was in at the time I called at your house on the way back from Bunratty. I said it was far too crowded and far too oversubscribed.
Oh, you're saying that, yes. Yeah.
So there's no elbow room, and that means that your quality of life, your experience isn't as interesting or as enjoyable because they're just cramming. The facilities are not, amenities are not there for the amount of people they're expecting to bring to these things now. And I think with all this virus, then they're going to have to look at social distancing more. And maybe, there is a parallel with the idea of the free movement, and that it should be maybe some restrictions on things,
But I find it difficult that people think it's okay to stay in their homes, that they're forced to stay in their homes, and social distancing is not going to make much difference. If you wash your hands and you look after yourself, I mean, if I had a cold, a normal cold, I'm not going to shake hands with you anyway. I'm going to say, listen, I have a cold, just so I won't be engaging with people as much. But this forced social distancing, walking in the dog, going to work, going on the bus, at work, the restrictions are too draconian. I find that very difficult personally. And a lot of people do, but they're probably afraid to say it. And they're doing it out of fear, not because they think it's right. They're doing it out of fear because they think it's going to be stopped by the guards or told to go home or told to go home from work and things like that. It's just too much. I think it's way... it's all
it might be something positive that could come out of it. If places were less crowded and there was more space. But whether we like it or not, it might be the new way forward, and we're going to have to take it on board.
But which way do you want to see it go back to? Because if restrictions were lifted in 2 weeks' time, people will just go back to normal. They go back and they go back to work. They go back out walking and running.
No, I don't think they are. I think it's going to be a gradual approach back. I don't think we're going to be going back immediately to the way things used to be. I think there's going to be there's going to be a new normal, whether we like it or not.
And you think that's okay?
I don't necessarily. Well, I think that some good might come out of it in the long run. I think. Yes, I think in the idea of overcrowded places and overcrowded workplaces, that wouldn't be a bad idea. When we cut down on the spread of colds and flus and people taking sick leave and stuff like that,
We see not everywhere has the space. I mean, even when we were working a couple of years ago, we had to expand our office, and even with the 6 of us and the extra space, it's still busy, and we wouldn't have the space to do more because we're restricted. Certain places wouldn't have that capacity.
Well, yeah, because they don't have the space for the people that are there, but they might have to look at getting the space and not having as many people per space. If you see my point.
Mm. But then you have less people doing the job that needs to be done. So.
Well, it might be something. I mean, health and safety. There are health and safety guidelines, and those guidelines are going to have to be rewritten now. There's a certain amount of space you're entitled to around your workspace. That may have to be widened with this.
Mm.
So there's health and safety at work, And I know you're not convinced about this, but it's something that we may have to. It may have to be looked at. This guy anyway says leaves us with a better society. I mean that's a point that he's making. So the point I'm just saying is some good might come out of it in the long run. And I think following on from we're talking about limiting numbers of people coming in. We don't have the space for people. We don't have the accommodation for people. I think there is a parallel there in our day-to-day life.
Oh yeah, from a border point of view, yeah. We wouldn't have the space for people, because people are. I mean, years ago we had more people living in Ireland, before the family, 8 million, right? And then it kind of gradually, after the family it dropped down, and then the population grew organically.
Everybody was living in rural places.
Yes.
And there's no travel. But now, I mean, and the population just rose kind of gradually, very, very gradually over the 100 years or so since that. But then it just went up like that in the last 20 years. So we just simply don't have the space. So there you go. There's a parallel with that. We don't have the accommodation or the space needed for these people. Everybody that's coming in now. So it's sort of too much to do. I mean, there's a couple of articles that caught my eye, Karen. Have you anything there? Do you want to talk about your papers?
Oh, right, great. I'm kind of looking at something more local. It came to my attention on Tuesday in the Evening Herald about the recent gang feud. Now, that's kind of calmed down a little bit for now because the arrests were made. But threats have been made to the murdered teen's pal because he has switched sides from one gang to another. Now, he's following the same path as the murdered teen back in January, which is quite foolish because one, he has a debt to one gang, and then he switches over to the other gang, who's now threatened him quite recently. Now that's when it came to my attention on Tuesday, and I was in the Evening Herald and Irish Independent. And it's like, has he not learned anything from January? I mean, that shocked the whole country. I mean, he's probably
not learned his lesson. Yeah.
No, I mean, no lesson has been learned in this house was broken into, and the house was broken into, and somebody's car was firebombed. An innocent person's car was firebombed who's not involved in the feud. And it kind of leads me on to another article I seen in Irish Independent the other day or during the week, where they're saying that the gangs haven't got the capacity to move around as much as they used to because the girls work more. And then people are not buying the cocaine as much as they used because they're losing their jobs. So they're not able to do what they used to do. So it kind of calmed things down a little bit. However, like this morning, 3:20 in Dundalk, we have 2 bank machines stolen in Dundalk. That might increase.
Right beside where we were canvassing, by the way.
Yes, exactly, in Dundalk in January and February. But you have to, I don't say admire, I don't like saying admire, but they're very organised, the fact that they went for 2 bank machines.
Admire's not maybe the right word.
No, it's definitely not. I'd say they're organised. Very organised.
But I think they were arrested in South Armagh.
They were. Despite that, they were arrested. And the fact that they even went to the bother of having 2 cars burnt beside the Garda station to block the 2 armed units. But I mean, that might increase because they can't get money from debtors that owe them money for the drugs, and they can't go buy drugs from the people and the dealers in Europe. They have to get money somewhere, and it's the same gang that's been doing it the last 2 years. So even our gangs on this side of the border might even revert to that. My worry then would be that banks might say, well, this is happening now in bigger towns. Before it was only small towns like Dundalk, near Virginia, Cavan, along the border. But now it's happening in places like Dundalk, which is a major town in this side of the country. Who's to say it wouldn't hit Drogheda? I think maybe banks might start thinking about taking ATM machines away from the street. Now that's possible. I don't know, they haven't done that yet. One of the major banks in the town in the last 2 years have moved away from the high street into a shopping centre, which is a little bit unusual, because they probably feel as though it is a threat. They want to keep it in-house, so to speak. But I don't know what you think about that. I even though we haven't had many murders apart from that one in January, it has calmed down a good bit in the last quarter.
It's terrible that they're just carrying it on in vulnerable times, They're just put themselves, Despicable.
Well, I mean, I feel as though criminals never going to think.
It's going to hurt the community. I mean, it's going to take away that resource. I mean, I noticed how busy that bank was when we were canvassing there, you know.
Yeah.
Banks are probably eventually going to just say, right, we're closing down, we can't do it.
Yeah.
And we could be moving away from cash anyway, so I don't know.
Well, that's two things. Yeah, that's two things.
At least they made some progress with the rest. Okay, what else you got there, Karen?
The other thing is about the economy and how the COVID is actually affecting, it's pushed our unemployment rate up through the roof in the space of like 3 weeks, from 4.8% in February to 17% this week at the end of March, which is actually huge. And we were doing well jobs-wise, sorry.
Was that the unemployment?
Yeah, the unemployment from 4.8 in February to 17% this week. That's huge, and that's without the construction workers even going on the dole, and that has to be taken into effect for this figure for April. So I mean, at the moment, it's like they're projecting it's going to cost the state 25 billion, and that when the things start lifting and go back to normal, it'll take a long time for businesses to go back to where they used to be and to get back to the employment figures that we've gained in the last a few years, because we were in a recession. We have 2.5 million people working, which is excellent, much more before the crash in 2008. The other issue then is we get David McWilliams made a few points around this issue in the Irish Times today, but he's kind of pro-Europe in the sense that Europe has to stick together in relation to giving us money. Like, as you know, some of the borders were closed down. Germany didn't want to give money to us because they think we either spend too much or they look after themselves. And that's another thing, that Europe isn't as helpful as we'd like. And so much for open borders and decide to close down themselves. And if they do give us money, they're going to put us back into austerity again. So we're going to be in austerity even before Europe even puts us there. He even made a suggestion that China is going to become the new banker, that they're the ones who are going to help out the world, states, the likes of us, which are smaller countries. So it's like China has caused the problem. We're putting planes in there to get, safety kits and, tests, and then we're going back looking for them for money. And they're the ones that are going to be solving the problem again. So which way we go, we're going back to China. So I don't know. It's like
apparently the PPE stuff that came over wasn't satisfactory anyway.
Sorry, say that again?
Apparently the equipment that came over wasn't good enough anyway.
That's it. I've seen that today as well, and they're recognising that now. And that's what they're saying. They're even sending tests to Germany. So it's like we can't even look after ourselves, and I just don't know. These tests are not working. We don't even know whether they're really people who are saying they're COVID positive. Are they really COVID positive to that strain? And then they're not even. If the equipment is even right to begin with for nurses, doctors, and so on, so they're not being protected.
What's the prognosis? I mean, they talked about last week a 2-week shutdown, and then they'll see. But they're saying it might be further than that. What was the latest? What are you hearing about that?
Well, I'm hearing today that it could be for another 2 weeks. That when comes next Friday, maybe. Now that's my assumption. That they push it past the 12th. For another to the end of April, which is actually, but what I'm hearing yesterday was that the next 7 to 10 days will be crucial, because I don't know whether I'm hearing it correctly that this is the peak. We're not hearing the deaths and numbers that we're hearing, and people are recovering from ICU, which is good news. I heard that on the news before we came on, which is good news. And the deaths are 137 at the moment compared to what it could be in comparison to our European counterparts. We're not doing as badly as other people. I know we're a smaller country and we're less people, but we're not doing as badly regarding deaths and their numbers, even though they're going up. People are, they're recovering from it a lot better. The only thing is they went from, I don't know what number they went from, I think it was 10 to maybe 40 clusters in the nursing homes. That's where the problem is. And they showed an article there where they were, doing extra precautions going into nursing homes.
They're not going to make a decision until maybe Good Friday. That's next Friday then, and take it from there, because they don't know then, right?
Yeah, which is.
So we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah.
Just before we kind of finish up, it was funny that we had the Labour leader in Britain was elected to the Keir Starmer. And
Yeah.
you had a Labour leader down south. Was that coincidence that they had the
I
vote?
don't know, and I wouldn't have known that. I knew Alan Kelly was going up against. I heard that earlier today. So when you came on with that earlier on about the British one, I go, okay, that's unusual. So Jerry Corbyn has gone there. I don't even know who this woman is. So
So I just made the point. David Kelly, you said, yeah. No, the guy in Britain,
Alan,
Alan, yeah, the guy in Britain, it's Keir Starmer. But I made the point that your woman was a Labour Party member, and she says we're talking about the fact that he got elected by the members, and there was two women and him in the election race. It was all done by vote, and they were making the point that that wasn't a woman. And then this Labour member said, "Oh, it wouldn't matter to me who was running. I would always vote for the woman anyway." I mean,
oh
that's the point I was making. How sexist is that?
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? What
yeah.
about policy? So just vote for me because I'm a woman. And so I was making the jokey sort of remark that Labour need to look at their anti-Semitism before, and then they also need to look at their sexism while they're at it. You know?
But you don't vote for someone because of their gender. It's
Exactly.
like,
Exactly. You vote for them for the best person for the job. I mean, if somebody said that about a man, I'd say the same thing. You know, but if they had said that about a man, there'd be a hue and cry about it. And
yeah,
she said that remark, and the Lincoln journalist guy never even challenged her. It was on Sky News. I thought that's why I put it on Facebook, because I thought that's total rank sexism. Just vote. She just votes. So I made the joke as well. I wouldn't want to be in an interview panel with her on the panel. You know, I wouldn't get the job.
you wouldn't get very far,
No, I
which I
wouldn't
think
want
is
it.
wrong. Yeah, and I wouldn't like to. And as a woman, I wouldn't like to get a job because they were trying to fill a quota.
Exactly. So
It's because
it's wrong on every level. Yeah.
and then I deliberately made the point to you about how some women who are in power, especially in this country, I can't speak for England, but they have gone against their own gender in their public life. Politicians towards maybe cutting welfare payments in women, which was done by Joan Burton some years ago, and that's what happened to her when she was so-called kidnapped, and that
Who was
situation in
this?
Tala. This is Joan Burton. She's a Labour
Oh yeah, yeah, I
TD.
know her. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then you see other people in public life going against their own gender, Catherine
Yeah.
Sloan towards children. They're not always the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
leaders. I mean, I don't mean to say that about my own gender, but you see females in very high positions not always doing the right thing, and that's the point I was coming at. You know,
The whole abortion thing as well. I agree with your point. I agree with that. The whole abortion thing. I mean, women are going on now about wanting to have abortions. But imagine if a man was saying, imagine if the law was that you had to have an abortion. You were only allowed to have one child, and after that, everything had to be aborted. They'd be going nuts about that, wouldn't they?
yeah, you could, a bit like China having a
As if,
one-child
as if they
policy.
said,
Yeah,
it's my right to have a child, and you can't tell me. So now it's like, it just seems to be controversy for the sake of it,
mm,
I think we should be having more Indigenous children in Ireland, and then we wouldn't have this need to be replenishing from abroad.
mm, mm. But you see, you have to. I mean, we see it's such a big reduction in family sizes. I mean, to have 3 children in the family now would be unusual. I
So
have
then
two.
we should be maybe encouraging families to do that,
Yeah,
make it more what's the word, cost effective to do it.
yeah, tax
To encourage it,
incentives.
make it incentive and to make it
Yeah.
encourage. But yeah, so that's what the point was about that remark.
Mm.
But interesting to see what happens. But he wouldn't have been he's not my cup of tea anyway, Keir Starmer. But I just made that point of that remark. It was made.
Well, it's interesting the two of them came together on the same day, isn't
I
it?
didn't even know. I didn't know until you said. I didn't realize it was the same day.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's all right.
But it doesn't really matter who's the leader if the Labour Party is finished in this country. I mean, it's been finished for a while.
Yeah, yeah. They're a bit of an irrelevance, really, aren't they? I mean, the Sinn Féin are on their basically the left wing party now, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. They're very quiet now in the last
Well, they're
few
supposed to.
weeks.
They're kind of on that territory. Yeah, they've gone very quiet. Yeah.
Mm. I'm just wondering how they would fare out the second time if they had another election, like your friend says. Within a year, how would they fare out? Would people
Well,
look back?
I think. I mean, I think if I was Varadkar, if I was in his shoes, I would go for another election.
Leo, you mean?
Leo Varadkar, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Just
no other.
confused,
There's
yeah.
no other. There's no other Varadkar, is there?
Huh?
There's
No,
no
what
other.
I'm saying. I'm saying it's just don't do it. Yeah, it gives us a time to kind of.
Yeah. No, but if I was him, I mean, he's lost seats. I think, for better or worse, people are saying he's doing a good job with this thing here. He's going to gain seats, and he may take back some of the ones he lost. So I think Sinn Féin will lose seats. So I think it would be advantageous for him to go for another election. We could gain. Now, whether we can gain seats is another thing, but, we're going to be ready.
Yeah, and Kermit will start, well, I don't know if he's already looking at new candidates. I mean, obviously, we have to look at new candidates to cover nearly the whole country, obviously that direction. I know we got a lot done despite the last time. We had 11 candidates, but we probably have lost maybe one or two, maybe because we've lost one per candidate anyway. They won't be running the next time, but we need a lot more than 11 anyway to get that 2%, even to kind of, to get one person in, it'd be great, But even we need space to kind of get, to establish our party, because we don't have the numbers still because of what's happening now. We can't get out.
Well, that's why it's interesting too to try and just get the Facebook chat room things going and see who picks up and that,
Yeah, well, we can just talk about that during the week. I mean, we can do it together or whatever. I don't know what you want to do.
It even is just even though it's a sort of a trial and error thing. There's a big list there of 100 and whatever it is, 120 or something. You can just go down through it and randomly pick ones and see who picks up, see who engages in there. There are possibles, So people are shy at the start. They're initially not wanting to get out of their shell, but if we try, there was one or two that picked up last night. So just to get to break the ice. I mean, as he says.
Yeah.
So we can work at that maybe again during the week. Are you going to do another round table yourself during the week? Ireland's loose women.
You cheeky. No, Tuesday night. I don't know what time. Tuesday night, anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Connor, the one we had the other night was a bit more testosterone fueled.
Yeah, no, it's very good. No, I have to say it was very good one. I know I went on a bit longer, but I think it was going to be more structured next time. Maybe a topic or whatever. It went on quite a long time, but it wasn't intentional. It just,
just
but yours was more geared towards actual activism, towards the Tullamore and the open border issue, which was very good. And I think I sent you an email, about what I thought about it. You'll see it probably sometime. So I think, he raised on a point of what kind of questions you need to ask in a survey, which I thought was very good. One question doesn't give you the right answer. Like, if you ask people to stay, you want to help people, they're going to say yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Nobody's going to say they don't want to help, but then, a good question would be, at what level of immigration do you think is optimum? Because if you ask people, do you want to help people? Of course, people are going to say yes. But it's not all. As we said earlier, it's not about helping really. The agenda is much more nuanced and we